Hello YouTube, this is ProfessionalLeagueGaming, actually bringing a movie review to you. Today I review Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, as I'm sure you could tell from the title. Anyways, there won't be any spoilers in this review. On April 17th, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 was released in the US. It was a direct sequel to the original Paul Blart Mall Cop, which I actually quite enjoyed. The original was funny, Paul was a lovable character, and the story was great. So, does the movie live up to the hype, or does it fall short? Find out in this review. First off, we'll start off with the most important thing about a movie, in my opinion, and that's a story that I can tell. The main plot of this one is that Paul gets invited to a security guard expo in Las Vegas. So he grabs his daughter, and they head out there. There, Paul does what Paul does and makes a fool out of himself most of the time. And with all of this going on, there's a band of crooks stealing art from a hotel that they're staying in, and it's up to Paul to stop them. The plot is serviceable here. It's pretty much a repeat of the first movie, but in Las Vegas. But even then, you don't see a whole lot of Las Vegas. Paul is pretty much in the hotel the entire time. Hell, the story doesn't even take place in a mall. However, with that said, it doesn't exactly make it a bad storyline. You often see Paul make funny encounters with the crooks, and most of the jokes and mistakes that Paul make are funny, and you'll get some good laughs out of the movie. However, some of them do seem a little forced, and you'll be left scratching your head and asking why they even bothered to include them in the first place. It could have been because this movie is definitely more family-friendly than the first one. In the original Paul Blart Mall Cop, you see this scene where Paul gets absolutely hammered.
So happy!
And dances around like a maniac in a bar. If you're looking for that kind of humor here, it is definitely not in this movie. This movie definitely carries a PG/G rating with it. And I really wish they would have included a scene like that in the film, because I thought that was hilarious. I think the closest that it gets to that is that there's this party that Maya goes to, and there's references of alcohol there, but you never actually see the alcohol. It's just the stereotypical red cups. I wish they would have, don't get me wrong, it doesn't have to be R-rated, but I wish they would have just, stepped out of the boundaries a little bit, maybe included a dirty joke here and there, like how they did in the original. Because the original, you had fights in the mall and all of that kind of stuff. It was funny. But unfortunately, it does take a step back with the kind of humor thing. The whole bad guy angle of the movie is pretty stale, to be honest. It's pretty much just that there's valuable art in the hotel, the bad guys want money, so they try to steal it. Pretty simple. There. That's the whole bad guy angle, really. There's no Vec like in the first one where he joins Paul for a second to learn the mall security and then backstabs him. You're not gonna find very many interesting characters in that kind of way. And overall, I thought there could have been a lot more done here with the bad guy angle. Now, oh boy, if you love pointless love interests, this movie has plenty to offer you. Maya meets a guy named Lane, played by David Henry, and apparently they like each other or something. I don't know. The whole love interest was really pointless to the movie, and it didn't do anything for the plot. I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't say much more about it. Just know that it's a really pointless love interest. The same thing could be said about Paul and the hotel manager. They kind of get something going. But it was seriously the most rushed thing I've ever seen. Although I'm sure they were trying to use it to be funny, it just seemed really awkward and out of place. It would have saved some confusion if there were no love interest in the film. It didn't tie up real well like the first one did, with the kiosk girl or whatever, I forget her name. It's been 6 years since the movie, since the first one, that is. But it was just really, the love interests were really pointless, and they didn't make any sense. It was, bleh. They should have just left them out. Okay, now time for to talk about the ending of the movie. The ending of the movie was horrible. This is the one thing I have to spoil. So you know that scene in the trailer where Paul gets kicked by the horse? Right, that whole scene. That's the end of the movie. That's it. Terrible job there. I mean, there is no, that's the absolute worst way to end a film, is to just have it be some dumb thing that makes no sense. Anyways, with the whole storyline cover, it's time to move on to the characters/actors portion of the film. Honestly, everybody in the film plays their role pretty well. I mean, Kevin James does what Kevin James does, and that is just to be a goofball throughout the whole film. I mean, he's just always being himself, just goofing around. In a comparison to the last film and the first film, that's at least one thing that it kind of keeps, is that Paul is still Paul. And that's the good thing about it. However, with the other characters, you don't get nearly enough time with them for them to develop their character, or for you to even care about them. Hell, you don't even know their name. I mean, I had to Google some of the characters' names, and you know that's really bad when you have to do that. Just to remember what their names are. But it seemed like all the camera time had to go to Kevin James, as he's like the main star of the film. All of the bad guys are just pointless, stereotypical people, like, yeah, I want money, blah. You should have had more time with the other characters to get a sense to know them. But with all of that said, I have a very special category coming up. Alright, this is the big one. Not really the big one, but the one that I can make fun of the most. The special effects. Okay, I had to make this one a category because, to be honest, it's horrible. These are probably just about some of the most, or just the worst special effects I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, it is seriously something you would do in a computer apps class in high school. I mean, just look at the scene where Paul gets kicked by the horse. Tell me that doesn't look fake with a straight face. It's just terrible. I don't think it's possible to make it look any more fake than that, to be honest. It's like the editors of the movie had to read a Learn to Do Special Effects in 5 Minutes book and then put it out there. It was just awful. Terrible. Terrible. They're throwing in a little Spanish for you. Alright, time for the final verdict of the film. Overall, while Paul is still Paul, that's what I genuinely enjoy about the movie. It's just that Paul Blart is an enjoyable character. He's just a goofball, and I feel like Kevin James has a lot of enjoyment playing him because he kind of gets to act like himself. But the movie does fall very short in most parts, and is definitely not better than the original. However, if you're looking for a family-friendly movie to watch, I would rent it. Don't go to the theaters for it, and I would wait until it comes out on DVD and rent it. For my final rating, I would honestly have to give this movie a 4 out of 10. And that's slightly below average. That's how my scale works. I kind of use Angry Joe's scale, where 5 is average, and then 4 below average, 6 a little bit above average, and it goes on from there. I honestly do hope they make a Paul Blart Mall Cop 3, though. I do enjoy his character, and I love the storyline from the first one. It's just that it has to go back to its roots and go from there. Do what made the first one funny, and just not repeat it, but take ideas from there. And I mean, we love you, Paul, but this one really fell short.